So hello and welcome to Swing Smarter Monthly Newsletter or Newsletter Monthly. I say it both ways. This is your host, Joey Myers from HittyPerformanceLab.com. And I have the honor today, finally, to get Jeremy Frisch, and it's Frisch, right? Not Frisk?
Yes. Yep. Frisch. Yep.
So I have Jeremy Frisch on with me. He is the owner of Achieve Performance Training at Achieve Performance. Looks like you got your website you're going over to Achieve Performance training, but I think I put in achieveperformance.com. Is it?
It's achieveperformance.net.
.net. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Yep.
Then it reroutes. Yeah. So the big thing, Jeremy is a big, like if you go onto his Twitter, is at Jeremy Frisch, and Frisch is spelled F-R-I-S-C-H. So if you go on there, in his Twitter, it says strength conditioning, long-term athletic development, which we'll be talking a lot about in this call. Physical education, youth football coach, Clinton High. So he's at I think he's actually you're at the elementary school, huh? And then
Yep.
at the elementary, that's where all your training is.
Yes.
Clinton High, Bridgeton Academy, looks like Worcester State University. So welcome to the show, Mr. Jeremy.
Fired up. I've been a big fan for a long time and read your books and your line drive baseball package that I bought and watched those videos. So this is exciting for me.
Yeah, what you do, what I love is the very thing that you do to help kids get into is the biggest component, I think, that is not put in, or at least it's put in wrong. It's plugged in wrong. So my first question to you is, what do you feel on the strength conditioning side with the kids that you're talking about? So say maybe maybe through elementary school, what do you feel the biggest mistake is when those kids are being trained by strength and conditioning coaches?
Yeah. So, I think over the years, you got strength and conditioning started up with like professional and college level, and it's like trickled down and it went through the high school, and then now it's into middle school. And I think with private facilities, people are trying to make money. So they'll have some type of like kids program. Right. And what happens is that I think a lot of, facilities may not have the experience of working with kids. So they just default to what they know. And so they'll kind of put on training programs that are made probably more for adults than for kids. And so they sort of water them down a little bit and try to make them kid friendly, but they're really not, you know what I mean? And so the elementary school age, what we're really talking about is physical education, right? And we want to get those kids to be able to move around as much as possible. I think the most important part of that is you could say move around a lot, and you can get them to do like jumping jacks and hops and stuff like that. And all that stuff's great. But to get them in an environment where they have to sort of like think and react and move. And that's why like that age games are the best, right? You get them in an environment playing tag or chasing each other, or things like that, or playing dodgeball. Those type of things sort of develop those, kinesthetic awareness. They develop spatial awareness. They develop your ability to track with your eyes, which, talking about baseball, right? I mean, that's the name of the game right there. And so those things being able to track not only is awesome for baseball and other sports, but it's also awesome for reading, right? Because we all know we need that too. Mm-hmm. So any activity that allows us to like track a ball or track a person, or be able to have to react to a ball or a person or an auditory signal or anything like where we have to really sort of have to react to something in front of us is probably the best thing that you can give to a child that age. The other thing that they really need to be able to do is to be able to handle their own body weight. And like people think about that, it's like, oh, we're going to get them to do push-ups and squats and lunges and stuff. And it's not that. It's like more like, can they climb up a tree, or can they climb on a bar and hang? Can they do a forward roll? Can they bear crawl? You know what I mean? Can they jump off a box and land without like totally collapsing and hitting the ground? You know what I mean? When I was a kid, we used to jump off stuff all the time. You know what I mean? And I think those like sort of, we did it in a play type atmosphere, but those type of environments really developed athleticism. We didn't even know it. You know what I mean?
Right. And obviously in we're talking hitting and things like that, but throwing, And one of the things that I thought, I didn't know really much in my junior, senior year of college coming out, but one of the programs, I think it was University of Texas, had just won the College World Series. And so I think that was my junior year, and then my senior year, their strength conditioning program almost got rolled out to every D1
Right.
over the country. And one of the things that they did not do was anything over shoulder, no vertical shoulder, anything. So it was like, we weren't allowed to do any vertical shoulder stuff. And to me at the time, I remember thinking to myself, wait a minute, don't you need to be strong in kind of every position possible? Like, I understand that we're overhand a lot. We're doing a lot of overhand throwing and stuff, but what's your opinion, or what do you think about something like that, where you totally shut down any kind of overhead shoulder development for baseball, softball players?
Yeah. So, I mean, like the old saying, like, if you don't use it, you lose it. You know what I mean? And so you're asking these guys to pitch, and they're going through an extreme range of motion at a very high velocity. You better be strong to be able to do that. And you better be strong when you start doing it. You know what I mean? And I think when we're talking about kids, there's probably thousands and thousands of kids across the country that pitch every weekend who probably can't hold himself up, like hang from a bar for more than 30 seconds. You know what I mean? They don't have the grip strength in the hand. They don't have the strength in the shoulder, to be able to hold themselves there. But you're asking them to pitch a ball, as hard as they can, or swing a bat as hard as they can. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think too, I think when you look at it that way too, it's no wonder that I think some guys have trouble teaching kids how to hit or how to pitch, because the physical abilities aren't there, right? The physical abilities aren't there to be able to teach them how to swing a bat fast or how to throw hard. You know what I mean? So I think there needs to be a foundational level of strength for kids before they actually get into the first few years of playing sports. You know what I mean? So I'm a huge fan of like hanging, or pull-ups, or, climbing. All that stuff for kids is awesome. And I test, it's funny because my kids play baseball. So, some of their friends come in, and we get kids from the surrounding area that are, supposedly really good players. And that's like the first thing I test, like how long can they hang from a bar? And it tells me right away, like what they got going on up top. You know what I mean? It's a really good sign. Obviously, hitting and pitching and throwing, and a lot of it comes from the forces through the ground too, but it's important that their shoulders are strong, scapula is strong, has good range of motion. You know what I mean? So I'm a huge fan. Even all my kids, like when those kids start to hit like their tween years, like the 11, 12, 13-year-olds, we do tons of like one-arm dumbbell presses. We'll do stuff where they hold the dumbbell overhead and walk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge fan of that stuff. You know what I mean? Huge fan. And we do a lot of like, for power development, we do a lot of, medicine balls. Like most kids will throw medicine balls between the side, probably 4 pounds to 8 pounds, 10 pounds. But we have these medicine balls that are like, 15, 20, 25, 30 pounds. And we do a lot of like vertical throws with them. So the kids are going to like almost do like a push press when they launch the ball in the air, and we'll let it go, and then it'll hit the ground. They'll repeat. So we do a lot of that stuff. So yeah, I'm a big fan of trying to get your to get as strong as you can through a complete range of motion.
I love that. You mentioned the hang. So when you do an evaluation of a hang, what are you looking for? How long, if a player is poor in that versus is good in that, how long can they hang for?
I want to see like the base level, like 30 seconds. You know what I mean? I remember this summer I had like 3 or 4 kids that were between the ages of 11 and 12. And, and these kids play a lot of baseball, and they're pretty good, but they were struggling at 30 seconds. You know what I mean? And so it was for me. But you know what the great thing is if you practice that every day or every other day, you can get really, really freaking good at it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't take a long time to get stronger. And and I use that as proof for the kids. Like, look, if you work at this, just like swinging a bat and pitching a ball, you work at this every week or every day you're in here, you're going to get better. And we got kids that went from like barely getting 30 seconds to well over a minute. You know what I mean? So I think it's a huge part of my program when I first have kids that come in to my facility. And I love like the younger kids, not only just hanging, but like get them to like shimmy across the bars, back and forth, where they have to sort of like navigate across the bars. My kids I set up years ago, and they're still in there. Like they're like the gymnastic rings, like monkey rings. So they have to swing from ring to ring and go all the way down the rack and back. You know what I mean? And And I tell you, I think it's great not only for shoulder strength but grip strength as well. And I think that's another thing that's like so many baseball players I think leave on the table is grip strength. I mean, you're literally holding a bat. Like
Yep.
the bat is in your hands, right?
Hmm.
And everyone overlooks like grip strength. And like you have so many nerves in your hands and it connects all the way up into your shoulder. And I think that's another thing that's totally overlooked in a lot of training programs is grip strength, you know? So
We know it's crazy is that people now have to pay Yoda sports and conditioning, strength conditioning people, Yodas like yourself, to do
yep,
that kind of stuff instead of like you and I when we were younger. We went to the playground and we did all the monkey ring stuff and all that. Isn't that
sure.
crazy that they
Yep.
got to pay a Yoda like yourself now in order to get that kind of training?
Yeah, and I think too, like if you do it early, like my son, my oldest he's 13. He's a big kid. He's like, he grew, oh God, 6 inches over, he hit his growth spurt over COVID, and he's just sprouted up. And he's not skinny. He's pretty solid kid, right?
Mhm.
But like, when he was little, we did rope climbs all the time.
Yeah.
Like he used to climb his rope all the time. And I swear, like, even though he's grown a lot, developing that grip strength and shoulder strength when he was that age allows him to be able to still do like he can do chin-ups at his size and stuff, like, because I feel like he developed that strength when he was younger, and now that he's gotten older, even though he's grown, he's been able to kind of hold on to it because he's trained through that time period, and he's able to do those things. So I think like, yeah, I think for younger kids it's just huge to be able to get, and it's fun, right? Like that stuff's fun. We're not like making them do like one arm dumbbell rows and like scap pull-ups or we're not doing corrective exercises. That gets fun. Like you're climbing on bars, you're hanging, you're trying to get from ring to ring. It's like you're playing, but you're training at the same time. So
Playing
yeah,
tag
it's huge.
and that kind of stuff. That's what we
Yeah,
did in the gym, in the monkey bars and that the whole gymnasium type of thing in the parks that we'd play in. It was tag. We were trying to, and we were walking on, like I see your kids doing, walking on little, whether they're beams that are above the
yep,
ground or you're having a balance, you're having all this kind of stuff. And that's what I really like. One of the questions I wanted to ask you, you did a strength conditioning episode. It's on your site in the about section, like bottom third page of the page. And they were talking about some things. They asked you about the older kids that you get, whether they're high school, maybe even college guys that come back, or maybe just start to work with you. And
yep.
you can see that there was some developmental holes in their past. So when you get a kid like that, a high school, junior high school on up, what do you
Yep.
have to do with that kid? Do you have to kind of go back in time, work that out, and how long does that usually take?
So that was a big change for me with my like programming, and when I really started working with the kids and realized like these are the things that kids need and these are the things that will help them to develop to be a better athlete. I sort of took that idea and morphed it into using it with the older kids. And the idea came like, well, let's try to fill in these developmental holes with these kids during their warm up period,
Mm,
right? So
hmm.
10 minutes a day, 15 minutes, they'll come in, we'll do, some little bit of crawling, to work core strength and stability of the shoulder, because we know that's good. It's a little bit more structured, right? It doesn't look as fun as like the kids do it,
Yeah.
but it'll be like, all right, we're gonna do like 50 yards of total crawling broken up into small parts. We're gonna do some foundational like sort of we might do hanging. We might have them use a bar where they're going to work on their typical like strength exercises, like just to get them in the right positions to be able to do a squat or a bench press or a shoulder press, whatever. We'll do a lot of stuff like on the balance beams, right? We'll get them walking sideways on a balance beam, maybe doing a low lunge on a balance beam. We'll get a medicine ball in their hands and get them throwing the ball at different ways. That's another big one, like just side throws, overhead throws, slams to the ground, like get them in circuits like that so they get to move their body through a bunch of different ranges of motion, directions, and stuff they never do, right? Stuff they've never been used to. And so for me, that's kind of where I fill in those developmental holes. We use the warm-up period to sort of go back and maybe touch on the things that they may not have developed when they were younger.
I
So
love that. And,
yeah,
and correct me if I'm wrong. I think I've seen a video on your Twitter before where you had them wrestling or some sort of wrestling. I know you guys can roll out the wrestling mats out in the hall, I think you were saying. And then did you have them wrestling
yep.
or doing something similar?
Yeah, we have like, so sometimes we have them do like, so they'll get in a bear crawl and face off, and they'll have to
Mhm.
like they'll grab each other's arm and have to try to pull the other one over. You know what
Mm.
I mean? Or we'll do plyometrics where an athlete will jump in the air, and then while he's in the air, the other athlete will whack him, sort of push him, so they
Uh-huh.
land a little bit awkwardly.
Yep.
We'll do stuff like that. We'll do almost like it looks like almost like the athletes boxing another guy out, like in basketball, like a
Mhm.
box out drill, and
Yep.
just to work on like they're pushing each other back and forth. Yeah, so I love that stuff because I think it's a different type of strength, right? You ever have a buddy that wrestled and like
Mhm.
he
Yep.
grabbed you, and you always knew like, shoot, like this dude. It's
You're
just a different
telling
type of because he's just he's used to like just pushing and pulling with someone, and he knows like the moment you try to make a move, he knows how to counteract
me.
that
Mhm.
type of that motion. You know what I mean? And it's like you always knew when one of your buddies like wrestled because they just had that extra this sort of sixth sense in strength. So I love that stuff. And you've probably seen it. The younger kids wrestle all the time, and I
Yep.
tell the parents like, listen, your kids are going to wrestle when they come in. They're going to push each other. We're going to put the mats out. We're going to roll around. We're going to play games that force them to tackle each other. I'm a football guy too. I coach football, so if I can get kids to like get used to that physicality of the game, you know what I mean? I think you can't beat it because those are the skills they're going to use later on. You know what I mean?
I
So,
agree. Yeah, and I always, because I focus on the hitting side. I don't have.
yep,
We have a few places. There's a parkour place that we have our son at. We have a place called Little Gym that they do kind of beginning
yeah,
gymnastics. So both my son and daughter were in that for a couple of years. So they do a lot of the things we see on your videos. We see not everything, but a few of those. And then with the whole COVID thing, the Little Gym shut down, and so we were trying to find another place. So they do parkour. So a lot of the
yep,
things that you're
love it.
doing. So we don't have a ton of that here, which I wish there was. But what I usually suggest to my hitters is to get in things like martial arts, for the females, dance, even swimming is good. You just don't get the ground reaction forces in that. And
Yep, all
other,
great.
those kind of things are gymnastics, obviously, are always good as developmental things to do if we don't have access to something like what you're doing. Are you looking to do some franchising or something like that to where people can have access to that around? Have you given that a thought?
I have I've had so many people contact me about like, do you have a facility in you know Georgia, Florida, Texas,
Yeah.
California? I've asked people ask me if I could have a like I guess a entrepreneurial side of like my life, like a group of people that could do that stuff, I would do it in a heartbeat. But I am way too unorganized. I mean, I'm just getting by every day, just having my own place as a businessman. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'm sort of like the idea guy. I love going in the gym and coming up with all the different ways to do it.
Yep.
Um, Kind of laying that out on a national scale. I think for me, it's way above my head, but it would be awesome because I think you're right. There's not enough places around like that.
Mhm.
And I think for me, even thinking in an even broader scale, like you just said, like I would love to have a place that catered to, you have your gym where you have your older athletes so they can lift and do your traditional training. You have your kind of PE/transition into strength and conditioning that I do. And
Mhm.
then you can also have like that area where kids can just go and play and do parkour
Mhm.
or ninja warrior. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then, you could even take it one step further and have a big space where you had a batting cage and a basketball court and a little turf area where kids can, play 7-on-7 football or play
Mhm.
hoops or play baseball. You know what I mean? That's my dream, my dream facility. We just never we have yet to find the space because I think if you have something like that, the kids have access to so much athletic development. And I'll tell you what too, and I wanted to say this before,
Yeah.
watching my kids go and transition from little league into like a higher level baseball, right? So definitely like jumping from like a USA bat to a BB Core bat
Mhm.
and seeing kids who are not physically developed or strong enough struggle because they just went from a drop 12 to a drop 3.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It's like kids get up and it's like they're swinging a freaking tree.
Yep.
Um, and so that and one of my athletes, he's actually a football player, but he He likes baseball. He doesn't put full time, like a lot of attention to it. He just plays. But I was blown away this summer watching him be able to use his athletic ability on the baseball field, running the bases, running balls down in center field, just making contact where he put the ball where he needed to so he could get on first. You know what I mean? It just got me thinking, like, man, like, just having those skills is so big for baseball, you know? And so for me, it's like, and I'm always backtracking. Like, how can we develop those skills in kids so when they do get to this level, they'll be successful?
Yeah, I agree. And like I told you at the beginning of this call, that everything you're doing is a piece of the puzzle that a lot aren't doing. And I think a combination of what you're doing with that transitioning side, you talk about this football player is just an absolute athlete, been working out with you, doing that kind of stuff. So he's got the foundation to be able to just step in. Then the next piece of the puzzle are the movement principles, the human movement principles that are validated by science. We apply them to hitting the ball. And those
Sure.
are those are the things, you know, I'm a big spinal engine guy. I love springy fascia. And as you know, and that is the next step. Once you get moving correctly and you can take out ankle mobility issues or shoulder mobility or thoracic spine, once you take that stuff out, then it's all hands on deck. Now they got full range. They can create things like neck pressure where they can have wind up the head and the shoulders and things like that. So I don't know, man. Ever since that we connected, I wish I could have you in my, I wish I could, like, you talk about your Frisch heaven, about all these surrounding developmental things. You know, one of the biggest things I wish I had was a Jeremy Frisch next door to me that I can tell my hitters, this is a must. You need to go to this. And then, you know, that's going to make what we do in the cage or on the field so much better. I just wish we had a Jeremy Frisch next door. But maybe that's something that we can talk about, because we're working on some things that could be, you know, that we could talk over the phone on that, on the franchising side of it. There could be something there. We just have to take your brain and formulate how that would look. And it would be really cool.
Sure.
Something like a little gym, right? Little gym is very formulaic. I don't know. You don't have a little gym out there, but little gym's just a smaller version of gymnastics, right? So they're going into the flips and all that, but it's all building up to the back flips and all that, all those things. But maybe that's something we can talk to. One thing before I let you go, I wanted to ask about where people can find you. But before that, what is your kind of formula for when we do a workout? We want to make sure we're doing a roll. We're going to make sure that we're doing some sort of a hard press, a jump. Is there a certain formula, like maybe the top 4 or 5 things that you look for that we make sure in 1 hour that we're getting done?
Sure. Yeah. So when and I can even give you, like, so a lot of the athletes that I train are probably between the ages of like 10 and 14, 15. Right. And so that's a great age because there's so much development going on. And that's like really the golden age of, like, when you start to see their athletic skills start to blossom.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So when an athlete comes into my facility, you know, around that age, we spend a tremendous amount of time. We're not a tremendous amount of time, but we're going to spend a good chunk of time when they first come in. We're going to move. So, like, before we do anything, we try to increase our body temperature. Mm-hmm. And so we move. We do, like, we have circuits where, you know, we're working on fundamental movement skills, because that's a great time. So we're going to do, you know, 20 yards of skips, 20 yards of shuffles, 20 yards of back pedal, 20 yards of hops, you know, stuff like that. Another series we do in place where we just do jumping jacks or skips and hop side to side. But we want to move. And when we do move, we want to we want to do everything. So, like, when we're skipping, we do an arm swings. Mm-hmm. When we're backpedaling, we're holding our arms overhead. You know, when we're hopping, when we're doing side shuffles, our arms are going, making big circles. So we're, like, trying to integrate the entire body and make it kind of awkward and weird for the kids, mm-hmm. just because we know that all that movement is sort of going to lay a bigger foundation. The more movement you do, the better you get at it, right? So that's always, so the first thing we always do is movement to warm up, and it's usually fundamental movement skills, all right? Then from there, we usually move on to, like, 2 things. We work on stability and then flex in range of motion. So stability would be like getting the kids on the ground doing short stints of, like, bear crawl or crab reaches, where we're sort of, like, really focusing on the core, and they have to lift an arm off the ground and stabilize themselves in a good position, or lift a leg off the ground, or crawl, like, maybe 10 yards really slowly with their knees close to the ground. It's hard work, you know what I mean? But you're you're really focusing on staying stable and not moving much, or moving very slowly over a short range of short distance. And then to go with that, like I usually kind of do them together. We do these, what we call, it's the name of the company is called Stick Mobility, but we do like these big ranges of motion with PVC pipes. Yep. We're asking them to overhead squat. We're asking them to do a lunge with the bar overhead. We're asking them, like a big one I do with the pitchers, they get in a lunge with the stick over their head and they create a lot of tension in the shoulders, and they're going to bend side to side, like at their waist. We're going to do like big side bends. We're going to do lateral lifts. We're going to do step ups and single leg work. So we sort of do this stability / flexibility at the same time. And that happens every session. Mm-hmm. All right. And then the next thing we do, the next part of our workout is we do plyometrics. So we always do jumps. And again, we pair that with, this is where we get into like, I guess, more specific throws off the wall, where we do our plyometrics, like medicine ball work, you know, side throws, similar to like I want to see the kids like loading, you know, trying to get that upper body rotation while they're stepping forward. I want to sort of see kind of how they look, almost similar to what how they swing. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we do a lot of that stuff: overhead throws, heavy slams, you know, one arm punches, all different. We have medicine balls that we do drills that are 2 pounds. We have medicine balls, like I said, that work all the way up to like 30 pounds. Mm-hmm. So that's a huge one for us. And then from plyometric work and their jumps. So I should backtrack. After we do our throws, when we do our jumps, we're always going to do something double leg, and we're always going to do something single leg. So we're always going to be hopping off of 1 foot. And we're always going to be jumping up at 2 feet, just to kind of just make sure we cover all our bases, right? And then the last thing in our sort of movement series after plyometrics is we're ready to go. This is when we're going to sprint. All right, we're going to do short sprints. We're going to chase each other. We might do resisted runs. We might do some type of agility where we play tag and run each other down. Or we're going to do some type of like high speed work where we're really moving. Yeah. So, and then from there, it's all your basic stuff from in the weight room. You know, we teach our kids how to like Olympic lift. We're not scared of teaching, you know, getting a bar in the kids' hands. We definitely teach our kids how to squat, deadlift, you know, hinge, get strong on one leg. They do plenty of pull-ups, lots of rows, you know, really basic barbell, dumbbell movements.
I love that, dude. Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And again, we got to figure out how to get you a lot more outside of the Massachusetts area, Clinton, Massachusetts area. But before we get there, yeah, I appreciate your time today. Where can people find more about you? And so that's number one. And two, are there anything new, any kind of projects you're working on right now?
Yep. Yeah. So you can find me. I got a bunch of articles that I've written. I think 5 or 6 on Simply Faster. Mm-hmm. If you just like type in Jeremy Frisch, Simply Faster, all those will come up, and you'll see a lot of the things that you and I just talked about. You'll find a lot of those things in those articles. And there's a lot of great videos in there too. So, you know, some good examples if parents are looking for ideas, you know, to use with their kids or coaches looking to do stuff with their athletes. And then, you know, kind of going what we were just saying, I've been slowly just trying to take videos of the things that we do and sort of database them. Yep. And I don't know what I'm going to do with it. If I can present it to a group of you know, people, if coaches want it, or, you know, say you wanted it, say, hey, I need 10 exercises for my baseball players. Boom, you know, here it is. So I'm trying to sort of put that together. And there's so many exercises, it's a little overwhelming right now, but once I get that database sort of growing, right, and explain it all. And the other part of it is too, is you see like the games that we play. You know, I posted about the games that we play, but there's not enough space on Twitter or Facebook, and I don't really have the time to like explain how they work, you know, how the games work and what's the rules. So I'd love to like put together a database of games that athletes can use, and with you know, how to, like, how do you play this? What are the rules, and what are we working on? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's my current project.
Very cool. Well, we'll talk more about that. You and I just do a phone call. I think there's some things there that we can, whether that's an online thing or franchise thing, is going to take a little bit longer, because that's going to take into account creating some standard operating procedures and like operations manual, you know, that kind of thing. That's going to take probably a little bit longer, but an online thing might be something worth looking at right now as the low hanging fruit. And we mentioned your website. You, like you said, was achieveperformance.net. If people want to find you there, Twitter.
Yep.
Where can people find you? What's your handle? I know we discussed it earlier, but just as a reminder.
Yeah, it's just at Jeremy Frisch, and I post. I love Twitter. I love being able to come up with my ideas in little short phrases. You know what I mean? It's way easier to do that than have to write a entire article or books. And obviously videos tell it that can really show what you do. So I love posting on there, and mostly just because I think there's a lot of people out there that could use it. That there's a lot of mom and pop coaches. There's a lot of phys ed teachers. There's a lot of different people that could look at that stuff and find it useful. So
Exactly.
yeah, and then I'm on Facebook too. I just it's mostly people from my town, that or college friends and stuff like that. But I do post some stuff of the things we do with the kids on there. And the rest of my time, if I'm not working, got 4 kids, so I usually coach football in the fall and basketball in the winter and baseball in the spring. So yeah,
busy guy, dude. Busy guy. Well, hey, thank you for everything that you do out there, and we'll see if we can get touch more people besides over there in Clinton, Massachusetts. And appreciate your time today, Mr. Jeremy. You guys have a happy Thanksgiving. Any other parting thoughts before we go?
You too. No, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I think I read both of your books and they were fantastic, and they've definitely helped us, my kids, as far as help me as far as coaching goes, but also giving me an understanding of how I didn't understand all of it with the hitting book, and then you said, oh, I threw the shot put in college and I saw shot put, and I'm like, damn, that's it, it's there, I understand what he's talking about. So it was really great. It was really great for me, and then I could take the kind of what I knew about shot putting and I could put it back into teaching my kids how to hit, which is great. So yeah, awesome stuff. So I appreciate you having me on.
I love it, dude. All right, man. We'll keep up the good work. Again, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll talk soon. I'll reach out and we'll have a conversation about some of the other stuff we were talking about.
Sounds great. Can't wait. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother.
Bye-bye.